Welcome back, everyone, to AuthorStory. I am your host, Alexander Lim, and our featured book for this episode, which you can check out by clicking on the Amazon link in the video description below, is From Bad to Worse to Best in Class, a Refugee Success Story. The author is Hao Lam, who is the CEO and chairman of Best in Class Education Center, and who is truly passionate about supplemental education. So, Hao, welcome to AuthorStory. Thank you very much for being with us.
Hello, Alex. Thank you so much for inviting me. It is so honored and humble to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, how before to start off, I'd like to get a little bit in your background first. You're originally Vietnamese, right?
Yeah, actually, Alex, my dad was from China, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
Chinese. I'm Vietnamese with Chinese origin. So I was born in Vietnam, but both of my parents are Chinese.
All right. Okay, got that. Okay, cool. So, growing up in Vietnam, what was your childhood like? I mean, yeah, essentially, what is it like?
Pretty bad. The
Uh-huh.
first 7 years was great. I was very young, and at the age of seven,
Hmm.
you know what happened in April 30th, 1975? That was the
Yes.
fall of Saigon. That
Okay.
was the fall of my family, and that was the day my father disappeared. It was U.S. troop withdrew from Saigon, and my dad worked for the U.S. Military. He's a soldier, and he
Hmm.
disappeared on that day. We found
Okay.
out a year later that he was captured. He was one
Okay.
of the POW.
I see. Okay. And then now, so after that, I guess things went downhill for you. But I saw on your website, correct me if I'm wrong, that you fled Vietnam in 1988. I mean,
Correct.
that's a 13-year time difference. What happened in that interim?
Yeah, going back in time a little bit. So a year later, my dad showed up. We thought he was dead. He just disappeared. We haven't heard from him for about a year, and he just showed up. And half of his side, he was captured. He was in an education re-education camp,
Hmm.
and he came home and told me that how this place is not for us. You
Hmm.
have to leave the country. And
Hmm.
Alex, I was 8 years old. I
Right.
did not know what that means. Like leaving the country, like with an 8 year old kid, like look at he looked me into the eyes and you need to flee the country.
Hmm.
So I mean, I was 8 years old, and I just do whatever he wanted me to do. So it took me 12 years.
Hmm.
I tried to escape more than 10 times. I mean,
Wow.
like that. Yeah, got shot at multiple times. I was in jail. So a lot of things happened. But in the 12-year time, I didn't do anything. Life had no purpose for me. I did not go to school because I didn't like it.
Right.
I did not do anything. So I had one goal and one goal only, and that was trying to escape from Vietnam. And I failed. I failed multiple times.
Hmm.
I more than 10 times. I tried it, come home, wait for the next opportunity, tried it. It's not like getting a visa and leave the country.
Yep.
It is
Yep.
it is like escaping. It is
Yes.
illegal. We could capture you in big trouble. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that's that's a very troublesome time. So, how I just like to point out a little something because history knows the refugees from Vietnam, such as yourself, as the boat people because of the way you guys fled. Now, the label alone tells nothing about what it was actually like. Not to bring up any negative feelings or memories, but what was it like fleeing Vietnam and flee Vietnam the way that you did?
It was not fun. It was horrible. A lot of my friends left, and I never heard from them.
Hmm.
They're all dead.
Hmm.
Because like if you look like my last attempt was March of 1988, and I was with 143 people. We were on the ocean for 7 days and 7 nights without food and water. It
Wow.
was a 50, Alex, it was a 50-foot wooden fishbowl. It wasn't a cruise. It wasn't Titanic. Even the Titanic sank.
Hmm.
So it was really small. We were packed like sardine,
Hmm.
7 days at night, no food, no water. Even the second day I went up and said, look around, I didn't see anything except water, like water, sky, cloud, and that's it. And I cried. I didn't even know if I ever see my parent again, if I ever see the next sun, rise again. I mean,
Right.
it was that desperate. It was that dark. It was, I mean, you were vulnerable. You were hopeless. Like, there was absolutely nothing you can do. It was really tiny, small boat. You can just hurt the engine. The boat hardly moved because in the ocean, right? You just hear the engine noise and it was moving inch by inch.
Right. Right. Okay. And did I just out of a little bit of, I admit, morbid curiosity, did all of you make it?
No, actually, a couple of people died, so not everybody made it. But we were pretty lucky. When we were in the Philippine refugee camp, there were many boats came in before and after us. And a lot of the time, a boat left Vietnam with a boat full of like 100 people when they arrived, like with 20 people left.
Oh,
Like we were lucky, 7 day, 7 night. It's a long time, right?
yes,
No food.
yes, there is.
But some boat were floating in the ocean for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a
Wow.
month.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, horrible, horrible. Yeah, not
Right.
many people didn't make it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, geez, so it took, I'm sure it took a lot of intestinal fortitude to survive even that long.
Oh yeah. Oh
Wow,
yeah. Very desperate.
very, very much so. Now, you eventually wound up in Canada, right? So, how did you wind up in Canada from, say, from where you landed, the
Yeah.
Philippines?
So after 7 day and night, we got to the Philippines, and then we got transferred to. I think when we got there, if I remember correctly, it was Talampulan, right? That was a little island in the Philippines, and then we got transferred to Palawan in the Philippine refugee camp. It's a beautiful place, by the way. And then my uncle and my grandmother, my grandparent were living in Prince Rupert, Canada back then. My uncle
Mm,
also escaped from Vietnam, but he left many, many years before me. So I had two choices when I was in the Philippine refugee camp. So I could try to apply and come to the US because of my dad used to work for the US military. So I had an opportunity to come to the US, and I also had an opportunity to come to Canada because my uncle and grandmother sponsored me. Now, if you or the audience listen to this and read my book, you know that I was a really, really bad kid when I was in Vietnam. I grew up in the worst neighborhood. I did a lot of horrible things. I fought on the street
mm,
and all this stuff. So my grandmother called me up and she said, "How I can't let you go to the U.S. because nobody take care of you. We didn't have a
right.
lot of people in the U.S., right? I don't want you to end up, joining the gang and got killed in the middle of the night or something like that. So why don't you come to Prince Rupert and live with us?" Prince Rupert is a really, really small town. I think even today the population is probably less than 20,000.
Mm.
So people know each other, really small town. You can't do anything bad in a small village.
Right, right, okay. So you transferred to Canada then, okay. So let's move forward a little bit. So let's now you're in Canada. What was it
Yeah.
like for you being in a country where everyone spoke English and from what I understand you didn't, or you did it pretty badly?
Oh yeah, yeah. Pretty badly is not the right word. It was like I was basically illiterate when
Okay.
I. So at the age of 20, I had the opportunity to learn the alphabet in the Philippines.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I'm so grateful for all my Filipino teachers who taught me English. I still remember Alex learning like what is adjective, right? Now, how are you? Like present tense, past tense, and all that. So I
Right.
learned English like ESL for about a year, and then I went to Canada, and I had one dream.
Mhm.
My dream was to be able to graduate from high school, to live a life of a normal student. So I actually finished high school at the age of 23 in Prince Rupert. I actually went to high school. It was hard, like 2 years finishing high school, ESL, and it's funny, Alex. I asked my parent to send me a Chinese and English dictionary.
Right.
And you know what? I forgot that I couldn't even read a lot of Chinese. So the
Okay.
dictionary was not helpful because I speak Chinese, but I didn't read Chinese.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So after you graduate from high school, you went on to college, did you?
Yeah, yeah. So after I graduated from high school and I went to college, I went to UBC, University of British Columbia in Vancouver,
Mhm.
and did my 4 year degree there. So I graduate. I had my degree at UBC at the age of 27. So I finished college at the age of 27, April 27, and I moved to Seattle and start my business in June of 1995.
Right, right, okay. So now I have to ask, because you are a refugee, you're essentially an immigrant into Canada. How did your peers treat you? I mean, while you were in school or even in Rupert Island?
Yeah, so it wasn't a very pleasant feeling at first. So, I mean, at the beginning, I had to get a job. So, I worked in a bakery.
Hmm.
The owner's Chinese, so I'm able to communicate. I start 7 or 8 o'clock sweeping the floor, doing janitorial work and all that. To school, it was okay. It was a culture shock for me, but teachers are very nice. Most of the classmates are very nice, although some of them didn't treat me very well.
Hmm.
Of course, discrimination back then, right? It's
Right.
like 30 something years ago, but I managed to survive because I was a lot older than them. I
Hmm.
was 22, 23, but I looked 16. Nobody knew I was an adult. So
Okay, okay.
I was, Asian, we look pretty young. I was
Yeah.
really skinny. Believe it or not, Alex, when I was in Prince Rupert, do you know how many times people talk to me in Tagalog? I was
Oh,
skinny. I was like, I looked like Filipinos. People talk to
okay.
me. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
because
okay.
you can tell, right? So because I was, my skin color just like Filipino, and I enjoyed that. Like I told people, sorry I couldn't speak the language, but I lived in the Philippines for a year,
Hmm.
so it was great.
Okay, all right, good, good. Okay. So, I just like to first go into your being an educator. So, what put you on the path of being as passionate about education as you presently are?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, Alex. So, going back to my childhood, I didn't go to school. Ironically, Alex, my mom was a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So she taught in a private school. She brought me to school, but I turned around and left.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually skipped school a lot, and she wanted to keep her job, so she sent me to another school. So long story short, she know how important education is, so she got me a math, no, actually a math tutor and a Chinese tutor. So come to my house like once a week for an hour. My mom pays some money so that I learn a little bit, like an hour a week.
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason, I fell in love with math. So I kind of like math. I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing algebra and all that. And then when I got to high school, my counselor and my math teacher realized that I was good in math.
Mm-hmm.
So they give me a credit and they asked me to stay during lunchtime and break and after school and help my classmate or the people who need math to come to me. They give me a little room.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy doing that. And I rode my bike to other people's home and help kids with math. And I earned like $2, $5 here and there. So and then I realized that wow, I really enjoy doing this. So I didn't know what to do, right? I had a math degree. So after I finished college, so in April, I moved down to Seattle in May and signed a lease in downtown Bellevue,
Mm-hmm.
very close to Seattle, and had my first tutoring school. I did, Alex. Honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. Okay,
Okay,
so
okay.
I did not have an MBA. I
Right,
was
right.
so passionate in teaching. I didn't know that having my own play was running a business,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and I told you earlier, I looked really young. So it was a one-man team. I was the CEO, I was the CFO, I was the CJO, Chief Janitorial Officer, because I cleaned the toilet afterwards.
Right,
And
right.
came in and signed up. I answered the form and said, "Oh, may I talk to the math teacher?" And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "You're looking at him right now." And then you don't need a lot of English to teach math. So that's how I built my business because my English was not very good back then, But I had I'm very passionate about teaching. I'm very passionate about sharing my knowledge. So that's why I built a reputation, business grow and all that. But it's hard because I didn't do it in my garage or from home because I rent a space. So the first 2 years, I didn't make any money, right? I got the money, I pay, I licensed the material, I pay the license fee, I pay rent, I pay my teacher because it took me 3 or 4 months the business grow. I couldn't do this myself. And then I hire another math teacher, and then later on I hire an English teacher and all that. And slowly I build my business.
Right. Okay. And of course, I mean, Best in Class Education Center. It's got it's branched out, right? I mean, from what I said, something like nine. You've got nine different branches right now.
Yeah, so right now, and I franchised the business in 2011. So currently, I have 10 locations in Washington State, and we have 60 plus 64, 65 locations in the U.S. We are currently in 15 states
Wow.
in
Nice.
the U.S.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So where you sit right now, what are some of the needs that you see need to be filled insofar as education presently stands?
Could you repeat that question, Alex?
From where you are right now, I'm sure you're involved with education. You see that there are some needs that need to be filled.
Yeah.
Uh, what are those needs that you see that need to be filled as of right now?
Yeah, because in the U.S., in our current system, student doesn't get a lot of help from school. The
Hmm.
teacher to student ratio here in the U.S. is around 1 to 30, and a lot of the students, some of them are a little behind, so teachers spend time with them, and some of them are average or above average or extra ordinary, and they don't have the opportunity to excel in school. So, being a supplemental educator, we provide supplemental education to students so that they have an opportunity to learn faster, to learn more, so that they can get into the gifted program or be excel. So most of the students who come to us are above average student, although we have some students who need remedial purpose, right? And
Right.
but most of them are doing enrichment. Alex, they are doing well in school, but school is a little boring. You know,
Hmm.
I can do a lot better, but I finish my homework in 5 minutes. So we kind of help them out. And most importantly, we offer a lot of problem solving, critical thinking, and all that. So it tailored to the need of some of the market here in the U.S.
Okay. So just to be clear then, this is supplemental education. In other words, this is what you teach is not designed to replace what's being taught in school. It's sort of like an
No,
adjunct. It's sort of like, helping.
exactly. You are correct. Yeah, like add on. So a lot of the students, for example, if they are third grade, they come to us, and then we get them finish the third grade level, get into a fourth grade level, and then being tested, get into the gifted and talented program and all that. Because in the US, so if you're at the top 1%, then you are being tested every year and get into the gifted and talented program. So a lot of people want to get into the program so that it's more challenging for them. They hang out with people, with students who are pretty self-motivated. So we train students to get into the program and all that.
Okay. All right. Cool. Got that.
Yeah.
Nice. 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 Okay. So I'd like to get into another facet of your life. You're a businessman. From what I understand, you co-found a recycling company, you co-found a mortgage company, you're also co-owner of a real estate firm. Is um is being in business really, was it part of your upbringing, or was it something that you just kind of stumbled into?
Great question, Alex. It was by accident because knowing where I'm coming from, I was hungry. I was desperate many times in my life, right? We didn't make ends meet. After I got married, we couldn't afford to have kids. So I was chasing the wrong thing. I was chasing money, the first part of my life when I was 30 and 40, because I was not financially secure. So beside running two tutoring center, I didn't think it was enough. And I was wrong looking back. So I tried to multitask. So I used to own a mortgage company and a real estate company and invest in restaurant and all that. But all of them failed miserably
Mm-hmm.
because, Alex, I couldn't find my why. Simon Sinek said people don't care what you do, they care why you do what you do. I
Mm-hmm.
chased the wrong why. I chased money and that was why I failed. So because I didn't learn, I was just like, oh, let's work hard, let's make a lot of money. It was wrong, right? So my advice to my franchisee and my team is that chase your passion. What are you passionate about, right? What would you like to do? So now I woke up and I suddenly realized that, oh, I'm not here to chase money. We are here because we have a purpose, right? We are here, like, I'm very passionate about education. I'm very passionate about learning. I'm very passionate about teaching and sharing. So that kind of changed the whole thing, right? And then I start reading more books and also having two or three mentor, having a business coach, treating people well, and then all that became a different person. So I joined different organization, try to learn to be a better leader, be a better father, better husband, and a better human being. And
Okay.
that changed the whole thing, right? It's not like, oh, I have a lot of business. I just couldn't do it. I don't have a system. I don't have an infrastructure in place. Like I told you earlier, I don't have an MBA. I just learned by reading books.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. All right. So cool. So through that process, and you found your why.
Yeah, I found my why because when I do a lot of public speaking, you read the book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't brag about my success because I'm not even successful. I brag about my failure and the lesson that I learned. Why am I here today? Right? So I had my vision as a CEO, right? My vision is as follow to first be an insatiable learner, to also be a steadfast mentor to my team and all my franchisee so that I can positively impact every aspect of their life
Mm-hmm.
and guide them in reaching their full potential. This is my vision in my to help my team and also to my to my mentees because I have three mentors, Alex, and I also mentor other people. I want to share my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I had a mentor 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, yeah, you could have learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how let me move forward onto the book. I mean, what made you decide to write it? I mean, you're reasonably successful through the education center. What made you decide to write it?
So it's funny that you said earlier I was a refugee, right, from Philippines to Canada, and then I immigrant from Canada to the U.S. A lot of the time, people, we were talking and saying, "Where are you from?" And I start telling people my story, and people said, "Wow, fascinating, fascinating. Why don't you write a book?" I said, "It's a good idea. Why don't I share my story? Because I love sharing, I love talking, and all this stuff." So I've always wanted to write a book about my lifeline and my story, and I talk all the time. And I said, no, you gotta do this. So about 2.5 years ago, and you know that, right? A lot of time, hey, this is my wish list. So I sat down with a publishing company, and I said, I need some help. I want to write a book, but I can't do it on my own. I need somebody who hold me accountable for it and all this stuff. And Alex, you know that I have a tutoring company, right? We have 85 to 100 teachers. Every time I tell people that I want to write a book, like all the hands is up in the air. So I do chapter one, I do chapter two, I do chapter three, but nothing happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's hard because everybody's busy doing their work. So I actually went through the process. I have a ghostwriter who helped me. She sit me down an hour or two every week. I spent a whole year, talking to her, editing her work, writing my own stuff, fast check and all that. It took more than a year to, from the start to finish. And I really enjoyed it after reading my book. And it's hard for me and my wife to read the book because we get emotional. Yeah, so the book is about, that's good and bad thing happen. I try to be very I'm a very optimistic person, so I don't want the book to be too dark. I like it to be really descriptive, to be funny, to be a lesson, to share my experience with other people, who have been through dark days of their life, right? We all have bad days and all that. Like, look at me, I've seen worse, right?
Right.
I've been shot at, I've been in jail, I was hungry, I had nothing on my back, right? Like I came to the Canada from the Philippines empty hand, like
Right.
nothing, period.
Right.
And I lived the American dream, and I think I talked to a lot of immigration group here. I talked to university, high school, college, and all that. So I want to share my story. Hey, I know you have a bad day. This is not the end of the world. Just stay laser focused, follow your dream, don't chase money, right? Do what you want to do and find your why. Why do you want to do what you do?
Okay. All right. Actually how that kind of leads into my next question because you did mention a lot of things. Because this question is about like you came across someone who's dealing with this really serious event, a big trauma or crisis in their life, and you had only time to tell that person one thing about how they could manage it, how they can handle it. What would be that essentially that one thing that you would tell them?
Alex, great question. Um, I had a bookmark that come with the book,
Hmm.
and the quote in the bookmark says this: "Are we gonna die? If not, what's the problem?" See, this quote alone get me through a lot of hardship. So a lot of time, running business, right? Four of my restaurant failed. Um, 15 years ago, our house in Seattle got burned down, July 4. Firework. Luckily, no one was home. The whole house was gone, right? I let go of 60 plus people one day when I ran my mortgage company. I closed my real estate company. I was shot and jail time and all that. But like looking back, so a lot of time when we hit a wall, I looked my wife into her eye and I said, "Are we gonna die?" She said, "No." And my response is, "What's the problem? If you're not gonna be dead, tomorrow is a new day. You can start all over again. Take a deep breath. Tomorrow's gonna be better. You can always, right? Just we fail a lot, right? I learned my lesson through failures, right? I learn a lot every time I fail. I stood back up and I don't make the same mistake.
Mm, right. Well, that's definitely important. I mean, don't repeat the same mistake. That's how you learn.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
All right. Cool. Okay. So, all right then. So then, in closing, then the book is From Bad to Worse to Best in Class: A Refugee Success Story. The author is our guest, Hao Lam. How I wish we could talk some more, but we're kind of at the end of the interview. So thank you very much for sharing your time. Thank you very much for sharing your story. Thank you very much for being on Author Story.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So
Bye
everyone,
bye.
check out From Bad to Worst to Best in Class, and also be sure to subscribe to our channel to check out all the great books and their authors whom we have covered on the channel and which we will cover in the future. So see you guys next time on Author Story, where we speak to another great author about their awesome book.